Speedrunning certainly is an interesting skill. It's also a unique skill that can only exist in the realm of video games. Fairly certain you can't speedrun your driver's test without breaking some laws. Watching speedrunners impresses me and hurts me. Seeing the techniques they implement to try and shave frames off records is well past insanity. Not to mention all the effort it takes to know a game inside and out enough to be able to pull off these crazy feats. I mean, damn, these guys are working on some other plane of existence with this stuff. But while it does send me into La La Land trying to understand it, I can still admire it. These people put in such dedication that you can't help but cheer them on to break these games even further. Hold on to your brains, people, because where we're going, we don't need working codes. There are a lot of similarities in many kinds of speedruns. One of the things you notice is the lack of games speedrunning role-playing games. I mean, there are speedruns of RPGs, but they tend to be a little too lengthy when compared to other games. Especially since they are so railroaded with the paths and objectives. But that roadblock really only applies to more recent RPGs. When you look at older ones, now we're talking. Not to be mean, older RPGs are great, but not always as well made as they are now. All it takes are a few glitches to tease a speedrunner into destroying a game. And with that line of logic, the first Pokemon games are a goddamn buffet. Gen 1 is infamous for the war bunker size amount of problems it has, and the speedrunning community has put it to their advantage, from walking through walls to just having the Pokédex being 100% complete at the beginning of the game. I haven't played Red, Blue, or Yellow because of all these problems I've heard about them, but looking more into it, I should just because there are so many fascinating ways to go about it. Maybe the Gen 1ers have a point. If there is one thing that speedrunners do that piss me off, it's how they can turn almost any game with a Dark Souls level of difficulty and shred its runtime down to minutes. I already know I'm not the best gamer, but seeing people conquer games like Super Meat Boy in record times, I'd be less hurt if they just beat me over the head with a mallet. But with that being said, you wouldn't really count the Super Monkey Ball series in with the hardest of video games ever. They can be difficult, but nothing you'll break your controller over. I've only played one of the Super Monkey Ball games before at a friend's house, but what I did play got pretty aggravating at some points. And seeing all the ways that other people navigate this series is kinda bonkers. After you're done with this video, I highly recommend watching a speedrun of one of these games. Glitches are like golden loot boxes in this game, so speedrunning Super Monkey Ball is a process of hurling a primate across the screen at high velocities and scoring an Olympic medal-worthy landing. I still have no idea how people can get such precision when everything is going this fast. Granted, some levels are as simple as walking forward, but with levels as ludicrous as these, I am clueless as to how they got to the goal. It's fucking witchcraft. Now that I've upgraded my wallet from coupons to nickels, I've finally been able to play some of the games I've really wanted to, like Hollow Knight, Monster Prom, and Wargroove. Yet I still haven't gotten around to getting my hands on Skyrim. It is quite a marvelous game from the outlook. Expansive wildlife, breathtaking views, and more meme material than you can hope for. It is Bethesda's most polished game after all. But saying that doesn't mean much. Skyrim isn't Gen 1 in terms of glitches, but let's be honest, it's not that far behind. So of course, speedrunners have had a field day with it. I mean, why would you travel through this vast and beautiful continent like normal when you can glitch yourself into oblivion? Seriously, this game is so janky that you can abuse it in many ways. For instance, did you know that as long as you have a bucket on hand, you can glitch yourself through almost any wall and up mountains? And even ignoring the glitches in Skyrim, and let's be honest, there's no way you could, you can get fairly far by just abusing the low IQ NPCs and OP skills like sneak. What else can I say but, it just works. There are a few things needed to be a good speedrunner. A good memory, dexterous hands, a deal with the devil, but if you can't get that last one, having an absurd amount of luck will do just fine. No joke, a lot of speedruns need luck in order to not lose those valuable seconds. But most games, when it comes down to it, you need skill. Unless you were doing a speedrun that relies on nothing but luck, but why on earth would you play a game like that? I say that because speedrunners need to have control of what's going on in order to beat it. But if the game doesn't even know what's coming up, how the hell do you? The Binding of Isaac, Spelunky, and Terraria are all games that are bound by luck. And while those do make some pretty interesting plays, I find speedruns of Minecraft more amusing. There are a surprisingly large amount of little tricks you can do, from placing blocks below you to get over the terrain faster and using beds as bombs to kill the Ender Dragon quicker. Also, Minecraft has its own nifty bucket trick to avoid fall damage. And since the worlds of this game are procedurally generated, there are an infinite possibilities for speedrunners to keep beating this game faster. The current world record is under half an hour, but who knows? A seed might generate that allows the game to be beaten in a third of the time. Guess we'll just have to wait and see what the future holds. Mario, Mario, Mario. It's impossible to avoid you, ain't it? As the face of video games, Mario is capable of fitting many roles, and speedrunning is not excused from that list. In fact, a Mario game was my first time I tried speedrunning something. I managed to beat New Super Mario Bros. DS in less than 2 hours, but apparently that's nothing special. A lot of games in Mario series are good for speedrunning. World, Odyssey, the Galaxy games. I originally looked at Super Mario 64 for this list, but Jesus Christ, did I just have a stroke? Yeah, it is very easy to break this game. But why break the game even further when you can just work with what's already broken? Being stuck between two masterpieces and on a console that didn't sell all that well, Super Mario Sunshine is an often overlooked gem. But despite that, I still love this game. It also has some of the best platforming in any GameCube game. And of course, with the help of FLUDD and its already unstable nature, speedrunners have had all kinds of fun with it. I also find it bullshit how fast they can beat Corona Mountain when it took me an eternity, but we already established I'm trash, so let's move on. I'm sure I'm going to get a lot of complaints for not having Super Mario 64 on here, and let me be clear, I'm not playing favorites with this. I legitimately think speedrunners with Sunshine were able to be more creative. Stuff like glitchy wall kicks, bouncing on bugs, and just being able to abuse the hell out of FLUDD gives a lot more approaches to speedrunning. At the very least, it's easier to interpret than this madness. It's strange that I've yet to include certain types of games on this list. Ones that encourage you to go fast. You know, games like Sonic the Hedgehog, Mirror's Edge. Obviously games that focus on fast movements have caught the eyes of speedrunners to try and beat even faster. But instead, let's focus on a game that mainly goes slow. Superhot has got to be one of the greatest indie games I have ever played, as well as one of the few first-person shooters I will play. An FPS puzzle game where time only moves when you do is genius and naturally would enforce on using your movements wisely, and force on being slow and methodical. So of course speedrunners have thrown those ideals out the window to beat this game quickly. I'm including all the games in the Superhot series for this entry, because all are fun to see a speedrun of. Seeing the players able to make such precise movement in a game that is essentially nothing but action sequences is marvelous, especially with how skilled speedrunners are. I love watching a player throw a katana across the room while an enemy spawns into it. While the story is kind of hard to grasp, a speedrun of it is a lot easier to handle. Welp. Time for another hit to my ego. Near the beginning of this video, I talked about how difficult games have been torn asunder by speedrunners. Battletoad has been beaten in 12 minutes, Castlevania in 11, Ninja Gaiden 2 in 10, But oh, those games are nothing when compared to Bennett Foddy's middle finger to the gaming community. When it came out in late 2017, Getting Over It immediately gained a reputation as one of the most infuriating games to ever be crafted. There are a countless number of videos showing souls being crushed as they slip from the peak, losing hours upon hours of progress. Internet's favorite gamer Markiplier literally threw his chair in rage. It also doesn't help with Bennett Foddy dispelling out famous quotes on keeping calm that only drive people more mad. But then you watch a speedrun of this game and my god! Getting Over It is not the most stable game, so most attempts trying to go fast result in you in going backwards. According to HowLongToBeat.com, it takes an average of 6 hours to beat. I think some disagree. Well, allow me to show you the world record is just over a fucking minute. Yeah, that hurts. That hurts significantly. Seriously, watching a speedrun of this game where the Cauldron Man gets launched, catches himself, and then immediately launches off again, what the hell?
This thing that we call failure is not the falling down, but the staying down. Mary Pickford.
Go make love to a tube sock. Nina Campbell. So here's a fun fact that some of you may be unaware of. Do you know there's a gaming convention for speedrunners? Yep, GDQ, Games Done Quick, where speedrunners unite to beat some of these games as fast as fucking possible. But there is one specific game played here that always makes for great highlights of the convention. Super Metroid. Seriously, Super Metroid might as well be the game of speedrunning. While it can't exactly be broken apart with glitches, like many other games on this list, you sure can sequence break the hell out of it. Being able to wall jump off of anything in this game allows speedrunners to skip ahead to different parts and pick up late game weapons early on, and all sorts of other stuff. One of the highlights that I brought up earlier was the charity drive to kill or save the animals that take up frames of the speedrun. Thankfully, I've already watched MatPat's video, so I know the right choice. And people are still finding ways to beat this game faster and faster. Hell, the new world record was set last month, just under 41 minutes. Samus is already a badass, but who knew she could destroy a planet in only half an hour? Over the last decade, there is something I've noticed about AAA developers. While they can make creative and fun titles, they lack the versatile minds of indie developers. Since indie studios are made up of gamers, they know the little things that gamers enjoy. For example, the developers of A Hat in Time, Gears for Breakfast, knew that when making the game that it was going to be a little short, but also knew that a modding community would most likely materialize. So they encouraged it, even making a separate room in the hub for community levels. So that's something you would never see from Ubisoft or Konami. A thing you also almost never see from AAA games is the developer encouraging speedruns. I'm pressing X to the thought that Nintendo made Super Metroid thinking people would be able to beat it in under an hour. Matt Thorson, however, did put this to mind when making their game. Those Starbites that watch things other than my countdowns would know that I've been posting Celeste recently. At the time of making this, I've beaten the game and am editing the videos, and can proudly say that Celeste is one of the best video games I've ever played. I love the music, the deep emotional messages, and the fact that Madeline is canonically transgender. While playing it, I knew this game would be loved by speedrunners. And so did the developers, apparently, because they even programmed a technique to help the community beat the game faster. I hope more games like Celeste come out in the future, because seeing developers work on games to be played in all sorts of different ways shows how flexible this media is, and it just makes it more fun for everyone. When writing this script, I got very curious how speedrunning games began. I mean, we're two guys hanging out someday, playing video games, and one just says to the other, "You can't beat a game that fast."
Challenge accepted.
And speedrunning is quite the challenge. The longer the game time, the more tempting it is to break it seems. There are games meant to be played for dozens of hours, and almost all of them have fallen under the scope of speedrunning, especially the Legend of Zelda series. But even ones like Breath of the Wild, which gave you the option to be beaten faster, was beaten beyond the expectations of Nintendo. But hell, that is nothing when compared to Ocarina of Time. Last year, I made a list about glitches and briefly talked about Ocarina of Time. Around then, the world record for a game that takes over 60 hours normally was beaten in 17 minutes and 34 seconds. Well, you can only imagine my surprise when doing research for this video that the world record has been beaten yet again. And sweet candy-coated cuckoos, what the hell is this? I picked a good time to talk about this apparently. Ocarina of Time has always been regarded as a cornerstone of video game history, and it's quite clear speedrunners have not ignored it. I wish I could explain all the chaos that goes on during this speedrun, but if I couldn't a year ago when the world record was 17 minutes, I sure as hell wouldn't be able to now that it's beaten in half the time. But I will try. By doing some tricks in the Deku Tree involving a stick, a bug, and a bottle, you can transport poor Child Link into the end of Ganondorf's castle. There you can do another fancy trick where you jump into the void, fight Beast Ganon, and win the game. Now all you have to do is hit a rock that causes the screen to zoom out, walk a bit to the right, enter a door, and boom! Ganondorf is defeated! He straight up dies like a bitch without you even needing to step into the first dungeon. And want another migraine? This still hasn't been run perfectly. Ocarina of Time can still be beaten faster. Just watch, in another year's time it'll be under 5 minutes.